Hello and welcome to DDOCast episode 695, recorded live on February 11th, 2023. I'm your host, Kaleva. We like to talk about Dungeons and Dragons Online nearly every weekend. You can watch us through Twitch, YouTube, the DDO forums, or from our website at DDOcast.com. And the audio only portion of the show can also be found on Spotify. On the podcast this week, we're going to talk about the DDO bonus days, DDO store sales going on, free transfer period going on. Hardcore Season 7 just ended, so we'll talk about that a little bit. Also talk about Standing Stone Games going to PAX East in March. I'm also going to mention that SSG has a position open. Snow Peaks is coming to a close this weekend. And then coming soon to the game with the U58, the anniversary party. And also I'm going to talk about how I want to incorporate some character building series things into the show. So with that, actually go to the DDO bonus days. DDO bonus days brings you a plus 40% challenge rewards boost now through February 12th. So this weekend, doing challenges that give you a reward at the end, such as the ones in Evening Star. These are the challenges that are going to give you a plus 40% boost on those rewards. Doesn't look like it's applying to Snow Peaks. I ran that a few times today, and kind of got the same amount of coins that I normally did. So that's DDO bonus days. Moving into the store sales going on now, starting on February 9th, going on now through the 16th, which is Thursday. So this coming Thursday, we have 30% off select mounts, Mirrors of Glamoring and Glamored Weapon Auras, Keep on the Borderlands bonus items, White Plume Mountain bonus items are all 30% off. The White Plume Mountain bonus items are good. That has the 5,000 Sentient XP gems. You get 1,000 things, so it's going to take up 5 spots in your inventory. So that's a good buy. This week's weekly coupon is for free Secret Door Divining Rod with the coupon code Secret Door, and that's good through February 16th. That covers store sales and the DDO bonus days. So we'll talk about Hardcore League Season 7 has just ended. The after party is currently going on. So now is your chance, if you were going for leaderboards, to get your characters off of the Hardcore server for this season. And that's available until March 7th. You've got a little less than a month to do that. One thing to note, the daily dice is not active on the Hardcore server during the after party. And based on what Cordovan was saying on his stream yesterday at Friday, they're going to be a little bit more explicit about stating that. In the past, daily dice has been available, so you could spend your shards on the Hardcore server because shards do not transfer. But the daily dice has been disabled, and that's going to be the way moving forward with all the Hardcore seasons. So if you're a Hardcore League player, make sure you spend your shards before the season ends. Otherwise, they're just going to go to waste. Cordovan also did say that he's going to be a little bit more explicit, or SSG will be a little bit more explicit about stating that for the next seasons and going forward. So with the after party, you can transfer to any server for free from the Hardcore League. There's also a free transfer period going on right now until February 28th through the end of the month. You can transfer from any server to Orion or Sarlona for free. And this is to make up for the broken world transfers at the end of Hardcore Season 6. SSG had stated that they were going to have a free transfer period because the only way to get your Hardcore tune off, you couldn't transfer your Hardcore tune to Sarlona or Orion at the end. If you wanted to keep it, you had to take it to a different server, and this is what was promised to us as players. Saying, hey, get your character out of there because we're going to do the next season. And now we're able to take all of those characters to our home server if your home server was Sarlona or Orion. This is just a free transfer period. No strings attached really to it. It's there. And over on DDO Audit, if you don't know about this, DDO Audit has added the transfers. Talk about it because there was much doom and gloom about transfers on the forums. So I've been kind of paying attention to this, and you can see right here there was a huge spike on February 8th of character transfers, basically because this is when they started recording the data. And it's kind of tapered off. Which is basically to be expected. There's free transfers. Everybody rushes, gets their characters transferred that they wanted to. We knew this was coming. And then, typical fall off of something happening. And you can see if we look at transfers, what servers characters are being transferred to here. The purple line is Orion, and the brownish line is Sarlona, so everybody's going there. Been a lot of transfers, and this is what was expected. So, looking at this chart here, we can see that again, February 8th when it opened, there was a lot of transfers going on. It looks like G-Land or Galanda has lost the most players. And there was a lot of talk on the forums that people on G-Land, Galanda, were going to be leaving, packing up ship, so to speak, even though the ships don't transfer, and moving on to a different server for whatever reason they had for doing it. And so some of what has been posted on the forums has come to pass a little bit, but this, it is what it is. Things were broken. They offered us a fix, and here it is. Here we are with the fix, and people are transferring. Right, wrong, and different. Whether or not it's a hardcore tune, that's what was intended. But here we are. So I'm following this trend interesting from a math and statistical perspective. So we'll won't talk about that too much anymore, except I do want to kind of go over transfers, just in case you've never transferred a tune before, or if you want to transfer and there's a whole guide on the DDO site about how it goes. Some of the things that do not transfer is your friends list, your /ignore list, your guild name, level, airship, amenities, membership ranks, and any other guild things will not go with you. Items in your reincarnation cache, that will not transfer. Any AH stuff that you have bid on or posted to will not transfer. In-game mail doesn't transfer. Shared account bank and crafting storage items do not transfer. Your astral shard balance will not transfer, which is kind of causing an uproar right now because of the after party people wanting to spend those shards on the daily dice rolls. On hardcore, they can't because the dice has been disabled. Creature companion stable will not transfer, and your mount stable will not transfer. And some things to note: you cannot be the leader of a guild and transfer your character from one world to another. You cannot be logged into the game world while undergoing a character transfer. It says you'll be kicked out. It is possible to transfer back to your original game world after transferring to a different world if you really wanted to, but anything that you had there is going to be gone in regards to like your guild, your airship, your true reincarnation cache, character specific things. Account things, because if you're still have a character there with access to the account stuff, all of that should remain. And then if your name is being used on the world you are transferring to, your name will appear with a -1 or basically a -X if it's the first. If it's the first, second iteration of the name, that's kind of difficult to follow. You will be granted a one-time free name credit. Second. Spam message. Uh, uh, okay. All right. So yes, the name change. If you transfer your character to another world server and there's already a character with that name, you will get a dash number assigned to it, and for that you can you get a free name change token. In order to use that, you use the backslash change name space and then the name that you want to use. So that's transfers in a nutshell. Pretty easy to do it. Log into the game. There's a transfer button available there. Click that, follow the steps, and it kind of walks you through it, and then it'll tell you get an email, and it's pretty instantaneous on that. Rocket Robin Hood is asking if first and last name. It's just the first name. The surnames are it's just the first name that is affected. And I believe that the change name token only does it for the first name. You can, I think, with a store item, possibly change your last name. So that is that. Free transfer period. The after party. Close my chat GPT thing. The dev tracker. All right. Let's see. And SSG is going to be at PAX East. They are going to be there on Thursday, March 23rd, the first day of the conference. I know a lot of Paydor says that the free name change token is only for first name. That's what I thought. Thanks, Paydor, for confirming that. PAX East, Thursday, March 23rd. I know a lot of people are planning on going to visit SSG and to see their panel. I'll be there. Looking forward to meeting up with some of the other players and content creators and the SSG personnel as well. they're going to be talking about how dungeons get built. This is going to be an interesting topic for me because um, have done indie game development on my own. I've made a few games. And so this is something that I'm interested in personally and hobby wise. So they're going to talk about their creative process and how they built the dungeons, of course, live on stage. Um, they are also going to be hosting a community meetup event open to anyone in the area who is close enough to attend. There'll be more information coming soon about that, but it looks like that is going to be on Thursday, March 23rd in the evening as well. And it should be somewhere around the convention center. There is a survey that I want to copy the link and I'm going to drop that into chat. It's a super quick survey that will kind of help influence the discussion a little bit. So that is in the chat of the Twitch stream, and I'll try to remember to put that into the description of the YouTube video and the audio portions and when the show gets posted. I don't know how long it's actually going to be available for, so if it's a dead link by the time you get to it, then I'm sorry. But on the panel, we're going to have Nobob, Senior Game Designer 2, or Senior Game Designer, Torque will be there, Artemis, who's a game designer, will be there, Tolero, our producer, will be there. When I say R, I mean DDO producer. And Cordovan, our community manager, will be there. And if you cannot attend PAX East, it's going to be, the panel will also be live streamed by the PAX East organization on one of their Twitch channels. So even if you can't make it out to Boston, you can still see the panel just by doing that through Twitch. That amazing thing that we're all watching right now. That's highlight what Pador is saying here. The name change token is invisible and does not take up an inventory slot. It's attached to the character by pure magic. Yes. I have a couple of my characters that I haven't used, and character names are kind of personal, and to some, I wanted to keep my character's name that way, and I'm just kind of forgetting about the -1. Somebody else had already taken that name, but at the same time, I also don't like the -1. There, I don't know. It's weird. Character names. Get wrapped up in some character names. People like to do name griefing and stuff like that. I don't know. But Lori Lillis says that she changed her hardcore tune yesterday. Came with a -1. The easy peasy. Thanks for that, Lori and Fedor, for some more information on doing the name changes. Let's see, what else are we going to talk about? No Peaks. No Peaks goes through February 12th, so use up all your keys this weekend. That's going to be going to a close. Get your festive augments, your filigrees, your cosmetics, all your goodies that you want to get out of Snow Peaks this weekend before it closes. The U58 and the anniversary party are coming soon. Now, it was said on Cordovan's stream yesterday, his Fridays at 4, that we could theoretically possibly expect that to drop within a couple weeks. He said it was definitely not going to happen next week. The week after that, looking at the calendar here, it would be the Wednesday downtime, the 22nd, or even maybe on the Thursday, the 23rd, where we could potentially, possibly see that update drop. That updated when that update drops, the anniversary party is going to come as well. Uh, and with the anniversary party, he did say that when you log into the game, you can go to the gym to claim your armor. And you can do it once per day. So you'd have to wait, come back the next day, claim the armor again. There's only one. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're getting any colors or any variations with that armor, as awesome as it was. Bring up that armor. Is it here? It was in the producer's letter. This was the armor that or this should be a work in progress rendering. So it's not the final rendering, but hoping it doesn't change too much because this armor is really cool looking. Yeah, you'll be able to get this when the anniversary party drops, hopefully a couple weeks from now. Also, SSG has currently hiring. This was mentioned on Court of Unstream yesterday as well. They are hiring for a builder position, I believe it was. If you're interested in working for SSG, go apply. Yeah. All right, so pretty much all the game current event stuff I wanted to talk about. It went a lot faster than I thought it was going to. So one of the things that I wanted to do when I took over this podcast was talk about character building, character progression, as well as quest tactics, how to go through quests or how to approach a quest. It was just more theory than specific situations, because specific situations are very specific and they apply to an instance. Whereas if you discuss theory, it can be applied in a much broader sense. I'm going to bring up on screen over here to iconic past lives. Yep. Okay, so this is just on the DDO wiki at the iconic past life feats page. Just when you're building a character or you're trying to increase your character's power, there's a few different ways to do it. Past lives are one of the most common. I want to say easiest, but I'm doing air quotes around easy because it's not easy for everybody to grind out a past life. But there is a lot of power that can be gained from a past life, but also the build itself. There's a lot of power that is within that. And that is more of a specific. And I wanted to try to focus more on general things, like how you can build so much dodge or get so much dodge out of your build and your gear set, and then you're kind of hard cap. How can you get more? Well, the Shatter Kai. Passive past life gives plus 1% dodge per stack of the past life. So if you complete 3 Shatter Kai lives, which is an iconic, its first level is Rogue. You complete 3 of those lives, now you've got plus 3% dodge. So there's that incremental power that can apply to a variety of builds. If you feel like your build is lacking in a PRR, your Purple Dragon Knight, that's a good way to add another 3 PRR per stack. You don't have to go get 3 lives of it, but if you get 1 life, you get 3. You can get up to 9. And in general, with the Purple Dragon Knight past life, it's a good feat because it comes with a clicky. It's not an iconic, or it is an iconic. It's not a stance, which the other ones are. So all of the iconic lives, there's the stance and the passive bonus that you're going to get. So if you're looking at iconic past lives for your build, you can pick one. You can get them all. No real bonus to getting them all other than, yay, you got them all. But personally, for my Acid Alchemist, I'm going to be in the Deep Gnome stance. That's where I want to be because it gives me, I'll have a +3 to my illusion DC and a +15 acid spell power just by being in that stance. And plus, by the time I get, I've got 3 of them now, so I have +9 MRR regardless on all of my builds. So iconic past lives are good. They are a little bit more general to a build than, say, your feats or even the class past lives. That's kind of a specific thing. Like if you're going to be a barbarian, then it helps to get the barbarian past lives, because every time you complete a barbarian life, your barbarian power grows, as it were, right? But at the same time, barbarian is also a good general past life because that's +10 HP. So you get 3 barbarian past lives. Now you got 30 extra HP built right into you. So, I've found that the #1 cause of dying in DDO is running out of hit points. So if you run out of hit points, you're dead. Also, the math does show that your DPS is 0 when you run out when you're dead. So, yeah, it's so 30 HP. That helps. You don't have to do all 3. Get 10. That's nice. Plus, there's some passive speed too. So, to do a barbarian, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So back to the iconics. These are things that can generally help a lot of different characters and a lot of different builds. Will benefit from the PDK, Purple Dragon Knight, Past Life, the Shatterkai Past Life, the Tiefling Scoundrel Past Life is a good one. The passive bonus to that is a +1 reflex save. So you can add +3 to your reflex saves. So if you're doing the evasion build or a trap build, you don't want to worry about having to disable traps. A lot of them go against your reflex save. So having 3 Tiefling Scoundrels gives you a +3 to it. And then if you add another 3 Tabaxi lives in there, your passive is a +1 to saving throws versus traps. So now you've got +3 to your reflex save and a +3 to the saving to the throw on a reflex of, as long as it's against a trap. Plus, you'll get a +1 to all saving throws for traps, but against a trap that is affecting the reflex save, that's +6. That's a lot. That's a good amount. Blade Forged is another good one right here. It says +5 fortification per stack. And again, I'm just looking at the passive ones. And unless you're playing or going to be a Warforged, the Blade Forged iconic past life stance is +10 repair spell power, which helps out immensely for Warforged, but that's a narrow focus. So if we look at just the passive bonuses, in the general stuff, there's a lot that can be gained by starting to stack up these past lives. And it's but at the same time, I don't want anybody to feel overwhelmed that you got to get all these past lives. You don't. You can do a lot of stuff on a first life tune with a good build, um, and and gearing your build and your gear is where you're going to get a good 80 to 90% of your power, in my opinion. Um, you're going to get another chunk of that through game knowledge, knowing where traps are, knowing um, where the mobs are, what things, types of spells, attacks to do against certain mob types, such as constructs can't be controlled. So those your crowd control spells are what can be used against the construct there is severely diminished. You can't just throw up a dancing ball as you would with a general pack of mobs. Um, so in that progression, we have our feats in our build, our enhancements. That is one section, and then it moves into gear. And then when it really starts becoming what I want to focus on is the general stuff, the game knowledge, the past lives that are going to help you in that build, or in general. Like it's some of these are pretty specific, even with the passive bonus. The Sun Elf, for example, is a +3 positive spell power. So if you're not going to benefit from positive spell power, really no point in doing the Sun Elf other than to say that you did it. So, um, these are the things that I want to talk about in this series about character builds. And the game knowledge one or bit is going to come kind of bounce back and forth between general questing knowledge or how to approach a quest versus and character builds. So hopefully the goal of the series is to be as informative as possible. So those are the kind of the things I want to talk about. And also, I do want to open it up to questions as well from the community, and I will be making a post when I post this episode. There will be a post on the forums letting you know this show is up on the DDOCast website. But it's going to kind of recap some of this rambling that I'm doing with the plans for it, and I'm open it up to community feedback, things that you've learned, things that you've picked up, because the more, let's say, throwing it back to when I was a kid, G.I. Joe, knowing is half the battle, right? If you have a plan or you know what to do in these situations, or in a quest, when it starts to go sideways, you can recover, and I think it's makes for a better game experience. Because I know sometimes it's frustrating looking at the builds, looking at, I was like, oh, I want to play a warlock, which is what I did. I said, hey, I want to play a warlock, right? And I went to the forums and I looked at different warlock posts and builds. I found a few and I started to try them. And at one point I was like, this is stupid. Warlock sucks. But it doesn't. What I was doing wasn't good. So you just needed to, or what I needed to do was figure out what makes a warlock good. What are the warlock's strengths, and start to play to that. And then once I did that, and I found a couple builds that I liked. One was by Scrimtom, and the other one by Glass Jaws. Both acid blasters. They're pretty close in how the character is built, with some small tweaks there. And then at the same time, if you find a build that you like, and I always try to point people towards Strimtom's builds because he's got a lot of them, and they're fairly decent, and they're generally the starting point for, or my jump off point. Like I want to do a rogue life, which I'm doing right now. So I go out there and I look at the rogue builds, and I find one that looks like it's fun, and I work it, and then I make it my own. Things that I don't like, or things that I don't use that are in the build. Like, well, I'm not going to spend points on this action boost if I rarely ever use action boost, or my play style doesn't really lend itself towards action boosts. And I'm just using action boosts as an example. I do use them from time to time, but I don't prioritize them as much. So those are things where I can take the enhancements on a build that spends 80 points on enhancements, and now I can put that somewhere else into something that I like, or makes it build work a little bit better for me and for my group. And group dynamics has a lot to do with it. For example, on this rogue build, the one that I'm playing, sneak attack damage is a big thing for it. So as long as if I'm sneaking, or I don't have aggro, I'm at my highest DPS. But if it's just me and my friend and we're duoing, I can't really sneak attack because he's an alchemist. He's throwing spell vials, and I'm just kind of grabbing stuff up. But at the same time, whereas I focus on sneak attack damage, I also have things that make me a little bit more survivable when it's just the two of us. We add a third or fourth person into the group, then I can go right over to sneak attack damage. And so, but what I want to caution about when building characters and looking at this stuff is you can be really great at one thing, and you can be good at a couple of things. After that, you're really starting to hurt yourself. You're going to start to lose out by trying to do too many things. So, again, you can be really great at one thing, and you can be good at a couple, but that's it. So, and then that's kind of rambled on for builds for a while. Questing. When you're in a quest, depending on the group dynamics, what you have, that kind of will dictate the difficulty that you're doing. But at the same time, the game itself right now is leaning towards throwing groups of mobs at us. So AoE damage is kind of good. And I like AoE damage. I love playing my alchemist, throwing the multi-vial and watching all those numbers fly up and mobs falling down. That's fantastic for me, right? I like that. Not everybody likes that. So when if your character is built to do that, do AoE damage, it helps to have somebody or a way to gather everybody up, or not everybody, the mobs, gather the mobs up into a group. So, and how do you do that? Especially if you're by yourself, right? If you're soloing and you're built towards AoE damage, what you want to do at that point is find a choke point, right? Fight on one side of a door, run into a room, tell the mobs their feet stink, as our guild leader would say, and then run back out of the room, making all of them come to you through the door. And that's also great places for crowd control. Throw them up on doors, especially the I don't want to say the how do I say this? The lower the difficulty the dungeon is going to be for the group, this is a little bit less important. But the higher the difficulty, the more important it's going to be. And that's I don't, when I say difficulty, it's not just R8, R10, whatever. This can be hard if you're by yourself, literally on the hard difficulty. Depending on where your character uh, build is at, power wise, some builds aren't going to take off until epic. Some aren't going to be good until you're actually at level 30 or higher. So the quest tactics and how you approach all of these fights within a quest is important. And the more I look into and watch and learn from the high skull groups and players, is that they don't fight the mobs that they don't have to. Um, they the tendency is to do exactly what is needed to complete the quest. They're the minimum amount, um, which is one way of approaching a dungeon or a quest. You can go in and do exactly what you have to do to get out of there, or get your completion, get your loot, check the list off the saga, whatever, however you want to say it. Um, so yes, and so these tactics they come in handy. Their general approach: door fights, crowd control, um, setting up the crowd control at the choke point. Um, and it really what it comes down to is mob control. If you as the player or the group, whether you're soloing or playing in a group, if the players can control the actions of the mob, then you have an advantage. You've got the distinct advantage over the mobs. Um, so, what you do in what's it called? The low level quest, Waterworks, right? These, if you're doing it at level, a little less important, but at the same time, if you're struggling to get through Waterworks, I would implore you to start to try some of these tactics, right? Open the door, grab some aggro, and then run back out, and then make them come to you through the door, through the choke point, whatever it is. Um, Things that I've done too when I'm pushing myself in the difficulty is making sure that the door to the shrine room is open. Some of them close on us, but there's nothing worse than pushing yourself and dying and then realizing that you're stuck as a soul stone. Um, dragging stuff, dragging the mobs to the more advantageous area for you. That's a good thing. I do know that a higher skull tactic is, ranging some of the reapers that have bad pathing, right? So if it can't get to you, it can't hit you. Um, so uh, these are things that will apply to all quests, and that's the kind of stuff that I want to talk about in the series, and just trying to increase the knowledge of players. Some people are already going to know all this stuff, and that's great. But I know some of the other content creators too have covered this stuff, and that's great. But I want to put my own spin on it, and um, my experiences within the game, and add my knowledge to the pool, because it can't hurt, right? Um, and there's a lot to it. And what Neon Triana said in chat is it can be overwhelming, and it can be. There is so much to DDO, it is ridiculous. Just how much character customization there is, um, how much, how many quests there are. There's different ways of doing each quest. Like I know Final Enemy when I was farming out the Skullduggery cap, which is a really good piece of equipment. If you didn't know, gear right, Neon Trion. It was taking forever because I was like, man, this quest is so long. And then, um, uh, Voodoo Spice had a video on it, and I was like, how can I do this faster? Found that video, found Voodoo Spice, and was like, oh, that quest only takes like 5 minutes. If you just go in there and do what you got to do, this is how you do it. And it was so much faster to farm out that Skullduggery cap that it was made. It wound up taking me longer to run back to the quest from the Saltmarsh ship than it did to do the quest, which Final Enemy and Saltmarsh. I got really good at doing that quest. So I went in there and I did what I needed to do, get things that weren't important and that wouldn't follow me. And it made farming out that piece of gear a little bit easier. Yeah. Right, Neon. We are just talking about the first 20 levels here. The heroics, the epics is a whole different ball game. So yes, Neon Trion says that they had Final Enemy down to 8 minutes with a couple extra boxes. Yeah, I think my best run was about 4 minutes, and I'm kind of exaggerating a little bit with the run back. It's just, but that it felt like that was the longest part of it. Was getting back to the quest when I didn't get the Skullduggery cap. But and when talking about the Skullduggery cap, 3 charges of Death Ward, which is fantastic because when I came back to this game after my break, I was playing my Barbarian, and I was playing solo, and kept getting hit with negative levels. Death Ward helps prevent against that, but as a Barbarian, I didn't have any way to cast Death Ward. I was like, I was getting frustrated with this point, and I did some research and I found it, and I'm like, oh, that thing, that's what I need. It's gonna help me out a ton. So started trying to farm it out. So this that having that single piece of gear alone radically changed my play experience with a barbarian from I don't like this to this isn't that bad anymore. There's not you get in the negative levels. All my stats are being reduced. So this is a fantastic piece of gear, and your like I was saying, your build is going to take you up to a certain point. After that, your gear is going to take you to a certain point. Your game knowledge is going to get you even further, but then after that, that's where some of the past lives and all that are going to start kicking in. So when it comes to the character build, or once you've figured out what it is that you want to play, whether you want to play your alchemist, your warlock, sorcerer, wizard, whatever class it is, and you've got a build that you like that works for your play style, and is an effective build for you, that you've got it geared and you've been playing it a while, so you've got the game knowledge out with it. And then at that point, that's when it's really time, in my opinion, to start adding in the past lives and the bonuses that you can get, those extra incremental stuff. Yes, this is what Neon Treon put here is past lives and build knowledge and quest knowledge are all key to a good time in DDO, and it all comes with time. Take it in cookie bites. Exactly, Neon. Um, there's a whole lot to this. Going through it kind of fast over the last half hour or so, and we can talk for hours for on build knowledge, build theory, uh, what works, what doesn't. But at the end of the day, the general stuff that I want to try to focus on is what I think will help out the most amount of people. Or is it, we're just to talk about barbarians, and we could talk about barbarians for a couple hours at least, uh, you know, give or take. But that's going to help out a certain group. I want to try to help out the most that I can with, yeah, trying to help out the most amount of people with the series. So, with that, we have been talking about builds for almost a half an hour and game knowledge and all that. And it's about time. So, trying to keep the show to about an hour in length. Um, and one of the other things I do want to do too is bring in some of the other content creators to try to create discussions around classes in particular. Um, so, like I know Nimvind, fellow content creator, is a big fan of bards. I have a friend, Police Girl. He is a big fan of bards. So it's like I want to try to bring in these guys and just have a roundtable discussion about bards, how to build a bard, and stuff like that, and just general things for building a bard. And I want to do that with all the classes, and that is kind of that uh, specific knowledge a little bit, but I want to do each one. That way, none of them are left out, and we do get into the specifics where we need to. Because if you want to build, or if you're like, man, I really love bards, well, that's the show that you want to really that you want to listen to. Hopefully, you listen to them all. But uh, artificer, barbarian, all of those classes. Get the community's input on what works, what they like, because I can't play all of the builds at once. Would take up one person's. I don't even know if somebody could do that in an entire life. It's just because it's how much there is out there. But as I was saying a couple minutes ago, I'm going to wrap up the show. So with that, I want to say the DDOcast is hosted by Buzzsprout, the awesome podcast hosting network. Shows are usually available within a few days of recording. And the next show is going to be most likely on the 18th of February, 2023 at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, which is a Saturday. And you can stay up to date by following us on our social media pages or our website at DDOcast.com. And with that, yeah, and I never figure out how I should really end the show with a saying or whatnot. So we'll see you next time.